Hey everyone. Okay, so today is my most requested recipe. It is homemade Neapolitan pizza. Big change from previous pizzas today. For the first time, I'm making the dough from scratch. I normally buy the dough from Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, which I think tastes fine. I really am curious to see how much better and if it's worth the effort to make the dough by hand. So, big step, making the dough from scratch today. It's a 5-hour process because it's a live bean, because we're adding live yeast. So it actually rests for 5 hours. So 2 o'clock right now, it won't be till 7 o'clock later on until we actually form the dough and make the pizzas. So here we go. 400 grams, and doing it in grams, authentic Italian style, no cups, 400 grams of 00 flour. Add it to the mixer. 5 grams of dry yeast. Toss that in there. I'm just going to mix this up for a little bit just to get it nice and mixed. Okay, the yeast and the flour are good and mixed, so now we're going to add the water. So we have 200 grams of water, but we're going to take out 50 grams for later. Okay, so now we're going to add the water. Slowly. Now the reason that we add the water before the salt is because salt added to the dough too soon will kill the yeast. So now we're going to add the yeast. Add the salt, add the salt. Okay, so now the salt is added to the dough, and we're going to add the rest of the water. Okay, so we're going to let this mix at about medium speed for about 15 or 20 minutes. So I'll see you then. Okay, it's been 10 minutes at medium speed. We're going to do 5 more minutes at the highest speed. Okay, so it's been 5 minutes at the highest speed. Let's see what we got. Wow, it's really unbelievably well kneaded. I mean, it's so much different than when I've done it by hand. So we're just going to put this onto a floured surface. And there's really no more kneading needed. So we're just going to form this into a ball. This dough really feels amazing. So soft. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful dough ball. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cover it up. And let it rest for 30 minutes. Okay, the dough has been resting for 30 minutes. Let's have a look. Oh, it is so beautiful. Okay, so the only thing we're going to do from here is we're going to separate it into 2 equal pieces. And we're going to form them into balls. It's so beautiful and soft and silky. Now, I didn't see in the video that I watched in order to get this recipe exactly if they covered the dough or not for the next resting period, which is 5 hours. But I am going to cover it just to keep it from getting dry. So I'm just going to put some plastic wrap over this, and then we'll see you in 5 hours. Okay, so while the dough is proofing, we're going to go ahead and make the pizza sauce. So it's super easy. There's only really 5 ingredients. You have 1 can of San Marzano tomatoes, and then it's just a teaspoon of oregano, kosher salt, pepper, and then 3 teaspoons of olive oil. So I'm going to do it a little bit differently than I usually do. Normally I just take the tomatoes, I strain the can of the extra sauce, I crush up the tomatoes with my hands, and it makes it for a little bit more of a chunky sauce. I'm going to do a little bit more of a smooth sauce today just to see how much that comes out different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain the extra sauce out of the tomatoes. And put those into the food processor. Then let's see. It's just a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of kosher salt, and then 3 teaspoons of olive oil. I'm going to give that a quick mix. I don't want it to be really liquidy, but I definitely want it to be smoother than when I've done it by hand before. So a quick mix. A little bit more. And from here, we put it in a pan and we let it reduce just to get rid of that excess liquid, and it becomes a nice thicker sauce. So we're gonna do that next. Okay, so I put my pan on medium heat just initially to get it kind of warmed up. Then I'm going to pour my sauce. Give it a little stir with the wooden spoon. Now this really is personal taste, how thick you like your sauce. I'm going to reduce the heat to about medium-low and just let it simmer for a little while until it looks like the consistency that I want it to be. I definitely don't want it to be too drippy because you don't want it running all over the pizza and getting it wet. So I'm just gonna let this simmer for just a few minutes. I'll let you know how long I let it simmer when I'm done. And then you can decide on your own if it's the thickness that you like. See you soon. Okay, so it's been just about 4 or 5 minutes, and you can see that it's reduced down to almost half of what it was before. And what I'm looking for is, see this little bit right here, it's still very liquidy. I'm just looking for that to thicken up just a little bit more, and we can take off the heat. Okay, so we're just at about 7 or 8 minutes right now, and you can see it's reduced down to just about exactly half of what it was before. And I think that's just about right. When this settles and cools down, it'll be just the right consistency. So the amount of dough that I made before will make 2 pizzas, and this should be just the right amount of sauce for 2 pizzas, because we're not going to drown the pizza in sauce. Just want a little bit of sauce just to cover the surface, not real thick, so this should be just right. Okay, the sauce is done, and it can just stay at room temperature until this beautiful dough is all ready. 4 more hours to go. Okay, so here we are. We're about 5 hours later, and we are about 20 minutes away from the dough being ready to proof. And so we're gonna go ahead and get the oven started. I'm using the Uni Pro, and that is just a wood-fired oven that gets up to about 930 degrees. I prefer to have my oven at around 830 to 850 degrees because it takes us a little bit longer, like from a minute to 2 minutes to cook. And it gives me a little bit more time to really get the dough good and crusty. And it's not such a rush, and a mad rush to spin that pizza inside there and be stressed out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it started. And this takes about 20 minutes to get up to about 840 degrees. And then we're gonna go ahead and make our pizzas. Okay, we're just entering the red zone, which is 750 degrees. So just about by the time we're done making the pizza and bringing it back, it'll be right the right temperature. That fire is popping and ready to go. Okay, the dough has been sitting for 5 hours. It looks pretty perfect to me. It's so soft and so squishy. Let's make a pizza. Okay, so we're making a basic Neapolitan pizza, which is just a couple of ingredients, which is buffalo mozzarella. You can use regular mozzarella. My son and I can't eat cow milk, and so buffalo mozzarella doesn't have lactose in it. It's also what's traditionally used in Napoli. So, buffalo mozzarella, sauce, basil, olive oil. That's it. Just a little drizzle of olive oil too, so it's very, very basic. So, let's get going. I'm going to put this dough on a floured surface. And look at that. It just comes together so easy. There's no fighting the dough. I think we're going to make about a 14-inch pizza. My son doesn't like big puffy crusts. He likes it to be pretty flat along the whole thing. So I'm going to go ahead and stretch it out so it's pretty even height throughout the whole thing, not with a big fat crust. My son is cringing right now because they don't do this at the restaurants he's trained at. But for video purposes and time, I'm going to use a damn rolling pin. That's looking pretty good to me. Okay. sauce from earlier. That is just about right. One big spoonful. Beautiful. Buffalo mozzarella. Break it up. I like to cover as much space as I can so there's a good amount of cheese in every bite. Beautiful. Then, just a little drizzle of olive oil. And you can put basil on before it cooks or just after it cooks. I tend to like it after it cooks because it looks prettier. The oven's really hot and the basil gets charred to hell. And so we're gonna do the basil afterwards. And you can buy the basil and then keep it growing yourself at pretty much any store. Okay, so we're gonna get this on the pizza peel. And into the oven. Okay, one little drizzle of olive oil. And into the oven. Now I'm gonna keep this in real time because it cooks really, really fast. So what you're looking for is the edge that's closest to the fire at the back is going to puff up real quick. The stone on the bottom cooks the bottom and makes it nice and crispy. So you want to make sure that it doesn't get too charred on either side. We're going to turn it about 4 times. So what I'm looking for is that back end to be nice and puffy. And then the bottom's going to, right about that same time, the bottom is going to be solid enough for me to slide under there without it getting all messed up. So I'd say 20 or so seconds, and we're ready to turn it. So you grab the end that's already cooked, that's nice and solid, give it a turn, and back in. This part goes real quick. Okay, starting to puff up in the back. We're gonna give it another turn. That crust is looking unbelievable. What you want is little crispy bits, but not charred like charcoal, but just nice and golden and crispy. And with this dough that we made, when you touch that crust, it's just going to collapse because it's all air and soft and crispy in there. Okay? I'm going to give it one more turn. And in about 15-20 seconds, we're going to have a really beautiful pizza. Okay, and that's it. The pizza is done just that fast. How beautiful is that? And here is the end result. It's perfectly crispy on every side with little bits of char. The cheese nice and melted. And you know if this is the authentic crust when you touch, and it's just got that beautiful little soft fluffy feel to it. Perfect. Okay, last step. I'm going to transfer this to a tray. Snip off some basil. Give it a quick wash. And there you have a perfect homemade Neapolitan pizza. What do you think?
Oh my god, tastes like Napoli.
So that's it, everybody. I really hope that you've seen that this is really not that difficult. It just takes some time and a little bit of care and a little bit of patience, and the amount of love is transferred from your soul into this food when you feed your family. Your parents, your children, your friends are all watching. And when you take this much care and this much time to feed them, they'll feel it. Enjoy. See you next time. I want to give a big shout out to Vito Lacapelli. He's the person on YouTube who I found this recipe from. I highly recommend going to see his link. I will put it in the description. And also to Uni for making an incredible oven. My son, after I brought him to Italy 2 years ago, refused to eat a pizza that took longer than 2 minutes to cook, and you made that possible. So thank you very much. I'll see you next time.